Ambassador Lisa Morgan stared at the glowing screen in her office aboard the space station New Geneva. The message had arrived just minutes ago, but she had already read it 5 times. Her hands were shaking as she reached for the communication button. "Admiral Thompson, please report to my office immediately," she said into the intercom. Her voice was steady, but inside she felt like screaming. The space station New Geneva floated in neutral space, far from Earth, but close enough to several alien worlds to serve as humanity's first diplomatic outpost. Lisa had spent 3 years here, working to build relationships with alien species. She thought she was making progress. Now everything was about to fall apart. Admiral Jake Thompson arrived within minutes. He was a tall man with gray hair and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. He had commanded Earth's 3rd Fleet for 7 years and had never lost a battle. When he saw Lisa's face, he knew something was very wrong. "What happened?" he asked, sitting down across from her desk. Lisa turned the screen toward him. "Read this." Jake read the message slowly. His face grew darker with each line. When he finished, he looked up at Lisa with anger in his eyes. "They want us to surrender everything," he said. "Our ships, our weapons, our freedom. The Galactic Council has ruled known space for 3,000 years, Lisa replied. 12 different alien species all working together. They have more ships than we can count and technology we barely understand. "I know who they are," Jake said coldly. "The question is, what are we going to do about this?" The message had come from Zethkar, a creature that stood 8 feet tall and looked like a giant lizard walking on 2 legs. His species, the Vorthak, served as the military arm of the Galactic Council. The message was simple and direct. Humanity had 30 days to dismantle all military forces, surrender all weapons, and accept Council oversight of all human worlds. If they refused, every human colony would be destroyed. "We have to consider our options carefully," Lisa said. "Maybe we can negotiate. Maybe we can find a peaceful solution." Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside he could see stars scattered across the darkness of space. Somewhere out there were human colonies, millions of people who were counting on Earth to protect them. "Lisa, they're not asking us to negotiate. They're telling us to surrender. Or die. There's no middle ground here." Before Lisa could respond, her communication system buzzed. Captain Ryan Blake's face appeared on the screen. He looked worried. "Ambassador Morgan, Admiral Thompson, we have a problem. I'm detecting multiple alien ships near the Proxima Centauri system. They're scanning our defenses." Jake turned from the window. "How many ships, Captain?" "At least 20, sir. They're keeping their distance, but they're definitely watching us. My guess is they're preparing for something big." Lisa felt her heart sink. The Council wasn't just making threats. They were already moving into position. "Captain Blake, maintain your current position but stay alert. Don't engage unless they fire first." "Understood, Ambassador." The screen went dark. Jake sat back down and looked at Lisa seriously. "We need to contact Earth immediately. President Carter needs to know what's happening." Lisa nodded and opened a secure channel to Earth. It would take several minutes for the message to reach home, but this couldn't wait. Within an hour, President Helen Carter's face appeared on their screen. She was a strong woman in her 50s, who had led Earth through many difficult times. "I've read the Council's message," President Carter said. "I've already called an emergency session of the United Earth Assembly. Every colony representative will be there." "Madam President," Lisa said, "we need to think about this carefully. The Council has thousands of ships, we have maybe 200 at most. If we fight them, we could lose everything." President Carter was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke with a voice full of determination. "Lisa, I understand your concerns, but I took an oath to protect humanity's freedom. I won't be the president who surrenders that freedom to aliens no matter how powerful they are." Jake leaned forward. "What are your orders, Madam President?" "Prepare for war," she said simply. "If they want to fight, we'll give them one." The next day, news of the Council's ultimatum spread across all human worlds. On Earth, people gathered in the streets. Some were afraid, others were angry, but most were determined to fight rather than live as slaves. The United Earth Assembly met in emergency session. One by one, representatives from every human colony stood up to speak. The colony of New Mars voted to fight. The mining stations in the asteroid belt voted to fight. The research outposts in deep space voted to fight. When the final vote was counted, it was unanimous. Humanity would not surrender. Lisa watched the vote on her screen and felt both pride and terror. She was proud of humanity's courage, but terrified of what was coming. The Council had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had defeated species far more advanced than humans. What chance did Earth really have? Jake stood beside her, watching the same broadcast. His face was calm, but she could see the determination in his eyes. "Admiral, do you really think we can win this?" she asked. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled grimly. "Lisa, the Council thinks they know us. They think we're just another primitive species that will roll over when threatened. But they don't understand humans. We've never been good at following orders, especially from bullies. They're about to learn that picking a fight with Earth was the biggest mistake they ever made." Outside the window, the stars seemed brighter, somehow. In 30 days, those same stars would witness the beginning of a war that would change the galaxy forever. Captain Ryan Blake stood on the bridge of the UES Valiant, watching the enemy fleet approach through the darkness of space. He had never seen so many alien ships in one place. They moved in perfect formation, like a deadly swarm of metal insects, heading straight for the human colony of New Sparta. "Captain, I count 500 ships," said Lieutenant Amy Foster from her position at the sensor station. "They're all armed with energy weapons and plasma cannons." Ryan nodded grimly. His small patrol fleet had only 12 ships, all much smaller than the alien vessels. Any sane military commander would retreat immediately. But Ryan had his orders from Admiral Thompson. "Hold the line at any cost." "Sir, incoming transmission from the alien fleet," reported Communications Officer Ben Parker. "Put it on screen." The Maun face that appeared was unlike anything Ryan had ever seen. It looked like a giant insect with multiple eyes and clicking mandibles. When it spoke, the voice was translated by the computer into English. "Human vessels, this is Fleet Admiral Crixthon of the Zalari Empire. You are ordered to surrender immediately. Your colony will be destroyed as an example to your species. Comply and your deaths will be quick." Ryan stepped forward. "This is Captain Blake of the United Earthship Valiant. I have a message for you too. Go back where you came from, or we'll send you there in pieces." The alien commander's multiple eyes seemed to focus on Ryan with surprise. "You dare threaten us with your pathetic little ships? We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Your species is nothing." "Then you won't mind if we put up a fight," Ryan replied, cutting the transmission. He turned to his crew. Every face was tense, but determined. They all knew they were probably going to die, but they also knew that someone had to make a stand. "All ships, this is Captain Blake. Remember your training. Stay close to the asteroid field. Use every trick we've got. Make them pay for every inch." The battle began 5 minutes later. The alien ships moved forward in neat rows, just like they had done for thousands of years. They fired their energy weapons in coordinated volleys, expecting the human ships to either flee or be destroyed quickly. But Ryan had studied every piece of information Earth had about alien warfare. They fought with honor and tradition. They followed rules that had been established long ago. Humans didn't care about rules. "All ships, execute pattern Alpha," Ryan ordered. The human ships scattered in different directions. Instead of fighting, in formation, each ship went its own way. The UES Defender dove straight down toward a large asteroid. The UES Guardian flew directly at the alien fleet, firing everything it had. The UES Ranger disappeared behind a cloud of space debris. The alien commander was confused. This wasn't how space battles were supposed to work. His ships continued firing in neat patterns, but the humans kept moving in ways that made no sense. "Captain, Blake took the Valiant behind a massive asteroid and waited. When 3 alien ships came around to find him, he had already attached explosives to the asteroid. The explosion sent chunks of rock flying in all directions, destroying 2 of the alien ships and damaging the 3rd. "Nice work, Captain," came the voice of Commander Kate Johnson from the UES Defender. I just rammed my ship into their formation, took out 4 of them before I had to eject. Across the battle zone, human ships were using tactics the aliens had never seen before. The UES Thunder filled space with fake signals that confused enemy sensors. The UES Lightning used its engines to create a blinding flash, then attacked, while the aliens couldn't see. The UES Storm flew straight into an enemy ship and detonated its reactor, destroying both vessels, but taking out 6 more aliens in the explosion. Fleet Admiral Crixthon watched in growing alarm as his perfect formation fell apart. These humans didn't fight with honor. They used tricks and deception. They sacrificed their own ships to damage his fleet. They hid behind rocks and attacked from unexpected angles. All ships, maintain formation, he ordered. Continue standard attack patterns. But the standard patterns weren't working. The humans were like wild animals attacking and retreating without any logical plan. They turned space battles into chaos, and chaos was something the Zalari had never learned to handle. Captain Blake saw his chance. Half the alien fleet was now scattered and confused. Their neat formations were broken. It was time for the final move. All remaining ships, target their command vessel. Full attack. The 4 surviving human ships came together for one last assault. They flew straight at the massive alien flagship, firing every weapon they had. The alien ship was 10 times larger than any human vessel, but it was designed to fight other large ships in organized battles. The UES Valiant reached the alien flagship first. Ryan aimed his ship at the enemy's main weapon system and fired continuously. The other human ships spread out, attacking different parts of the massive vessel from all directions. The alien flagship tried to respond, but its weapons were designed for long-range combat. The human ships were too close and moving too fast. Captain Blake's ship flew along the hull of the enemy vessel, its guns tearing holes in the alien armor. "This is for New Sparta," Ryan said, as he fired a full spread of missiles into the alien ship's engine section. The flagship shuddered and began to lose power. Emergency lights flashed across its hull. Fleet Admiral Crixthon realized with horror that his mighty vessel was being destroyed by ships a fraction of its size. "Retreat," he ordered his remaining fleet. "All ships, retreat immediately." The surviving alien ships turned and fled, leaving behind 37 destroyed vessels. The humans had lost 8 ships, but they had won the battle. As Ryan watched the alien fleet disappear into the distance, he opened a channel to Admiral Thompson. "Admiral, this is Captain Blake. New Sparta is safe. The aliens are retreating." "Outstanding work, Captain. How did you do it?" Ryan smiled grimly. "We fought like humans, sir. I don't think they were ready for that." Word of the battle spread quickly across the galaxy. For the first time in thousands of years, someone had defeated a council fleet in open combat. The victory was small, but its impact would be enormous. The Galactic Council was no longer invincible. Admiral Jake Thompson stood in the secret underground facility on Mars, looking at the largest warship humanity had ever built. The UES Retribution was massive, 3 times bigger than any previous human vessel. It had taken 2 years to construct, using stolen alien technology and materials from a dozen different worlds. "She's beautiful," said Captain Steve Harris, the man chosen to command the new ship. "When do we launch?" "Tonight," Jake replied. "While the Council is still arguing about what happened at New Sparta, we're going to hit them where they least expect it." Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster approached them with a datapad in her hands. She had spent months gathering intelligence about Council military installations. Her spy ships had mapped their defenses and identified their weaknesses. "Admiral, I've confirmed the target. Centauri Prime is their main military headquarters. It's where they plan all their operations and store most of their fleet. If we can destroy it, we'll cripple their ability to fight." Jake nodded. The plan was dangerous, maybe impossible. Centauri Prime was located deep in Council space, surrounded by dozens of defensive stations and patrol fleets. But that was exactly why it would work. The Council would never expect humans to attack their most heavily defended world. "How many ships are we taking?" Steve asked. 50, Jake replied. "All equipped with the new stealth technology. We'll slip past their sensors, hit the target, and get out before they know what happened." The stealth technology was humanity's greatest secret. Earth scientists had discovered how to bend light around their ships, making them invisible to most alien sensors. It wasn't perfect, but it would give them the element of surprise they needed. 3 hours later, the human fleet departed from a hidden base in the outer solar system. The UES Retribution led the way, followed by 49 smaller ships. They moved through space like ghosts, their stealth systems hiding them from Council detection networks. Captain Harris stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the stars drift by. His crew was nervous, but ready. They all knew this mission could change the course of the war. If they succeeded, the galaxy would see that the Council could be hurt. If they failed, humanity might lose its best chance to fight back. "Captain, we're approaching the first checkpoint," reported Navigator Tom Bradley. "Council patrol ships ahead. Maintain stealth, stay on course." The human fleet slipped past 3 different patrol groups without being detected. The Council ships continued their regular patterns, never knowing that 50 enemy vessels had just passed within a few thousand kilometers of their position. 2 days later, they reached Centauri Prime. The planet was beautiful, covered in crystal cities that sparkled in the light of its twin suns. But Steve wasn't interested in the planet's beauty. He was focused on the massive space stations that orbited above it. There, Amy pointed at the largest station. "That's their primary fleet command. If we destroy that, their entire military network will be disrupted for months." Steve studied the target through the ship's sensors. The station was enormous, bigger than most human cities. It was protected by energy shields and surrounded by hundreds of defensive platforms. Under normal circumstances, it would take a fleet of 1,000 ships to even approach it. But these weren't normal circumstances. "All ships, prepare for attack. Remember, we only get one chance at this." The human fleet dropped out of stealth mode simultaneously. 50 ships appeared out of nowhere, already firing their weapons at the surprised defenders. The Council had never faced an attack on their home territory before. Their response was slow and confused. The UES Retribution led the assault, its massive guns tearing through the station's shields. Smaller human ships attacked the defensive platforms, using the same chaotic tactics that had worked at New Sparta. They didn't follow any pattern or formation. They simply attacked whatever target was closest. "Direct hit on their command center," reported Weapons Officer Lisa Chen. "Their communications are down." Steve smiled grimly. "Target their fleet yards next. Don't let any of their ships escape." The battle lasted only 20 minutes. The human ships struck fast and hard, destroying everything of military value they could find. The Council's primary fleet yards were reduced to burning wreckage. Their command station exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Dozens of their newest warships were destroyed before they could even leave their construction docks. But the most important part of the mission was yet to come. As the human fleet prepared to retreat, they captured several high-ranking Council officials who had been trapped on the damaged stations. Among them was War Marshal Thexandra of the Nixari, one of the Council's most important military leaders. "Broadcasting on all frequencies," announced Communications Officer Pete Wilson. "The entire galaxy will see this." Steve stood before the camera with the burning remains of Centauri Prime visible through the window behind him. War Marshal Thexandra stood beside him, her crystalline form flickering with what humans had learned was a sign of fear among her species. "People of the galaxy," Steve began. "Today, humanity has struck a blow against the tyranny of the Council. For 3,000 years, they have ruled through fear and oppression. They claim to be invincible. Today we have proven them wrong." He gestured toward the captured alien commander. "War Marshal Thexandra, tell your people what you have seen here today." The alien's voice was transmitted across every communication channel in known space. "The humans, they destroyed our greatest fortress. They appeared from nowhere and struck without warning. The Council is not as strong as we believed." The broadcast was seen on thousands of worlds across the galaxy. Species that had been enslaved by the Council for centuries watched in amazement as their oppressors were humiliated. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, the enslaved Cortac workers stopped their labor and looked up at the sky. On the gas giant Titan 7, The Metherian colonies began discussing independence. Steve cut the transmission and turned to his crew. All ships, jump to hyperspace. Let's go home. The human fleet disappeared as quickly as it had arrived, leaving behind the smoking ruins of the Council's most important military base. As they traveled back toward Earth, Amy monitored alien communications. "Admiral Thompson is going to love this," she said. "I'm picking up transmissions from rebel groups across the galaxy. The Kortak are organizing an uprising. The Metherians have declared independence. Even some of the Council's own member species are questioning their leadership." Steve nodded with satisfaction. The mission had been a complete success. They had not only damaged the Council's military capabilities but had sparked rebellions across the galaxy. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Galactic Council's authority was being challenged on multiple fronts, and it had all started with one human fleet that refused to accept alien rule. The war was just beginning, but humanity had already changed the galaxy forever. Supreme Commander Vexhaller floated in his energy chamber aboard the massive Council flagship Dominion. His species, the Firians, were beings of pure energy who had ruled the galaxy's military forces for over 1,000 years. He had never lost a battle, never retreated from an enemy, but now, for the first time in his long life, he was worried. "Report," he commanded, his voice crackling with electrical energy. Admiral Zorith of the Aquatic Hydrons swam nervously in, his water-filled command tank. "Supreme Commander, the situation is worse than we thought. After the humans attacked Zentari Prime, rebellions have started on 47 different worlds. The Kortak slaves have seized 3 mining facilities," added General Thrak of the Reptilian Saurians. "They're using human weapons and tactics. Our ground forces can't contain them." Vexhaller's energy form flickered with anger. "What about the Metherians?" "They've declared complete independence," Zorith replied. "Their gas giant colonies are refusing to send tribute. They say if humans can fight the Council, so can they." The Supreme Commander turned to face the massive holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked areas of rebellion. There were hundreds of them, spreading like a disease across Council territory. "How many ships do we have available?" he asked. "Every vessel from all 12 member species," General Thrak answered. "Over 10,000 ships. The largest fleet in galactic history." "Good. We will crush the humans first, then deal with the rebellions. Once we destroy Earth, the other species will remember their place." But even as Vexhaller spoke, Colonel Kevin Shaw was landing on the Kortak homeworld with a team of human special forces. The Kortak were strong reptilian creatures who had been enslaved by the Council for 500 years. Now they were ready to fight back. "These are plasma rifles," Kevin explained to a group of Kortak warriors. "Point and shoot. The energy. Blast will punch through Council armor." The lead Kortak, a massive creature named Gorthak, held the weapon carefully. "Humans teach us to fight like you fought at New Sparta?" "Exactly," Kevin replied. "Hit and run. Use the terrain. Make them come to you. Then disappear before they can respond." Meanwhile, Commander Rachel Stone was coordinating supply runs to rebel groups across the galaxy. Her cargo ships, protected by stealth technology, delivered weapons and medical supplies to anyone willing to fight the Council. "This is incredible," she reported to Admiral Thompson during one of their secret communications. "I've got requests from over 200 different species. Everyone wants to join the fight." Back on Earth, Dr. Nancy Price was putting the finishing touches on humanity's newest weapon. The mobile fortress ships were unlike anything that had ever been built. Each one was the size of a small city, armed with hundreds of weapons and protected by the strongest shields human science could create. "UES Freedom is ready for launch," she announced to President Carter. Along with the Liberty, the Independence, and the Defiance, 4 fortress ships, each one capable of taking on an entire Council fleet. President Carter nodded grimly. "How long before the Council arrives?" "Our scouts report they'll reach the Sol system in 3 days. They're bringing everything they have." The President looked out the window at the blue Earth below. "Then we'd better be ready." Across human space, preparations for the final battle were underway. Every ship that could fly was being armed and crewed. Civilian transports were converted into weapons platforms. Mining vessels were loaded with explosives to serve as suicide bombs. Even passenger liners were equipped with defensive systems. Admiral Thompson stood on the bridge of his flagship, the HFY Freedom, watching the reports come in. Captain Blake, now promoted to admiral after his victory at New Sparta, commanded the rebuilt Valiant, along with a squadron of fast attack ships. Captain Harris had returned from the Centauri Prime mission and now led a group of stealth vessels. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Council fleet," reported Lieutenant Foster, who had also been promoted after her intelligence work. "Put it on screen." Supreme Commander Vex Haller's energy form appeared on the display. When he spoke, his voice was filled with cold fury. "Humans of Earth, you have caused enough chaos. Surrender now and your deaths will be swift. Continue to resist and we will make your species extinct." Admiral Thompson stepped forward. "Commander Vex Haller, I have a counter-offer. Leave our system now and we might let some of your ships survive." The energy being's form flared with anger. "You dare mock me? I have 10,000 ships, you have barely 200. "Numbers aren't everything," Jake replied calmly. "You should have learned that by now. In 3 days, your pathetic world will be nothing but burning rock." Vex Haller snarled. "And when Earth is destroyed, every rebel in the galaxy will surrender." The transmission ended. Jake turned to his officers. "He's probably right about one thing. If we lose this battle, the rebellions will collapse. Everyone is counting on us." "No pressure," Admiral Blake said with a grim smile. "Actually, there is pressure," Jake replied. "But that's what we do best, fight when the odds are against us." On worlds across the galaxy, rebel forces watched and waited. The Cortac had seized control of their homeworld and declared independence. The Metharians had built defensive platforms around their gas giant colonies. Even some of the Council's own member species were having second thoughts about the war. The crystalline Nexari were questioning whether destroying Earth was really necessary. The insectoid Zalari were demanding revenge for their losses at New Sparta, but some of their colonies were refusing to send more ships. The aquatic Hydrons were secretly negotiating with human representatives about possible peace terms. Dr. Price made final adjustments to the Fortress ship's weapon systems. Each vessel carried enough firepower to level a continent. But she knew that even these massive ships might not be enough against 10,000 enemy vessels. Colonel Shaw continued training rebel forces throughout the galaxy. Every day more species joined the growing alliance against Council rule, but he also knew that if Earth fell, the rebellion would die with it. Commander Stone delivered her final supply run to a rebel base in the Outer Rim. As her ship jumped to hyperspace heading back toward Earth, she wondered if she would ever see these brave fighters again. The next 3 days passed quickly. Across human space, final preparations were made. Families said goodbye to loved ones. Soldiers checked their weapons one last time. Scientists made last-minute adjustments to defensive systems. On the 3rd day, the Council's massive fleet appeared at the edge of the Sol system. 10,000 ships stretched across space like a metal storm cloud, blotting out the stars. The final battle for the future of the galaxy was about to begin. The battle for Earth began at dawn on the 4th day. Admiral Jake Thompson stood on the bridge of the HFY Freedom, watching as 10,000 alien ships moved toward the inner solar system like a wall of death. "All human forces, this is Admiral Thompson. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for the freedom of every species in the galaxy. Make them remember this day." The Council fleet advanced in perfect formation, just as they had done for thousands of years. Supreme Commander Vex Haller was confident of victory. His energy form glowed brightly as he prepared to give the order to destroy Earth. But then something unexpected happened. Ships began appearing throughout the solar system. Not human ships, but vessels from dozens of different species. The Cortac had sent their entire fleet. The Metharians brought their floating battle platforms. Even some Nexari ships had joined the fight. "What is this?" Vex Haller demanded. Admiral Zorith checked his sensors with growing alarm. "Sir, I count over 3,000 rebel ships. They've come to help the humans." The Supreme Commander's energy form flickered with rage. It doesn't matter. We still have more ships. All vessels attack formation. Destroy everything. Admiral Blake, commanding his squadron from the rebuilt Valiant, saw the Council fleet spreading out to surround the Allied forces. Jake, they're trying to trap us between their formations. I see it, Thompson replied. All Fortress ships advance to contact. Show them what Earth engineering can do. The 4 massive Fortress ships moved forward like floating cities. The UES Freedom led the charge, its hundreds of weapons firing continuously. The UES Liberty attacked the Council's left flank, while the Independence and Defiance struck at their right. The Council ships had never faced anything like the Fortress vessels. Their energy weapons barely scratched the human shields, while the return fire tore through their formations like a hurricane. But the Council had numbers on their side. For every alien ship the humans destroyed, 2 more took its place. The battle raged across the entire solar system, from Mercury's orbit all the way out to Jupiter. Captain Steve Harris led his stealth ships in hit-and-run attacks, appearing behind enemy formations and disappearing before they could respond. But even his advanced tactics couldn't change the fact that the humans were slowly being overwhelmed. Admiral, we're losing too many ships, reported Admiral Blake over the communication system. We need to try something different. Jake looked out at the battle raging around them. Human and rebel ships were fighting bravely, but the Council fleet seemed endless. Then he remembered something from Earth's history. All ships' new plan. We're going to use the sun. Dr. Nancy Price, monitoring the battle from Earth, understood immediately. Admiral, that's incredibly dangerous. The solar flare could destroy both fleets. Better than letting the Council win, Jake replied. All ships, retreat to safe distance. We're going to give our guests a taste of Earth's star. The human fleet began pulling back, drawing the Council ships closer to the sun. Supreme Commander Vexhaler, thinking the humans were retreating, ordered his forces to pursue. Don't let them escape, he commanded. Destroy every last ship. But Jake wasn't retreating. He was positioning his fleet for the most desperate gambit in human history. As the Council ships moved closer to the sun, the Fortress ship UES Independence separated from the fleet and flew directly toward the star. Independence, what are you doing? Jake called. Captain Mary Johnson's voice came over the radio. Admiral, my ship is damaged and losing power, but I can still complete the mission. The Independence flew straight into the sun's corona, its special shields protecting it just long enough to deploy a series of gravitational mines. The explosions triggered massive solar flares that erupted outward like weapons of fire. The flares struck the Council fleet with the power of a star. Hundreds of ships were destroyed instantly. Others were damaged so badly they could no longer fight. The perfect formations that the aliens had maintained for millennia were shattered in seconds. Supreme Commander Vexhalar watched in horror as half his fleet was eliminated by Earth's own star. For the first time in his long existence, he began to doubt victory was possible. Sir, we're receiving reports from across the galaxy, Admiral Zorth announced. Rebel forces are attacking our remaining bases. Without reinforcements, we can't hold our territories. The Supreme Commander realized with growing alarm that even if he destroyed Earth, he would lose control of the galaxy. The cost of victory would be the collapse of everything the Council had built. All ships cease fire, he ordered. The battle gradually came to a stop. Ships from both sides floated in space, weapons still charged but no longer firing. Jake opened a communication. Channel to the Council flagship. Commander Vexhaler, are you ready to discuss terms? The energy being's form was dimmer now, less confident than before. What terms? Complete withdrawal from human space, independence for all rebel species, and the dissolution of the Galactic Council as a ruling body. Impossible. The Council has ruled for 3,000 years. Jake's voice was calm but firm. Commander, look around you. Half your fleet is gone. Rebellions are spreading across every Council world. You can keep fighting and lose everything, or you can accept that the old ways are over. Vexhaler was silent for a long moment. Finally, his energy form flickered with what might have been resignation. What do you propose to replace the Council? Oh, Galactic Federation, Jake replied. Equal representation for all species. No more masters and slaves. No more tribute worlds. Freedom for everyone. The negotiations took 3 days. In the end, the council agreed to dissolve itself. Each member species would become independent, and a new federation would be established with representatives from every world that wanted to join. Ambassador Lisa Morgan, who had been present at the very beginning of the crisis, signed the treaty on behalf of humanity. As she put her name to the document, she thought about how much had changed since that first threatening message from the council. 6 months later, Admiral Blake stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the UES Explorer, Earth's first deep space. Exploration fleet was preparing to venture into uncharted regions of the galaxy. "Captain, we're receiving our final orders from Federation Command," reported his communications officer. Blake smiled as he read the message. Humanity's mission was no longer to fight for survival, but to explore the unknown and help build a better galaxy for all species. As the Explorer jumped to hyperspace, heading toward distant stars that no human had ever seen, Blake reflected on humanity's journey. They had refused to surrender when threatened, fought impossible odds, and changed the galaxy forever. The Council's age of tyranny was over. The age of freedom had begun,